Freeze.
Thank you very much. Very well. And your officials, Minister. Can I just move in very quickly? You mentioned the infringements. I'm just curious, and reminded me of the long discussions we had here on the septic tanks, and just has that been resolved, and has it been costly to this day? Maritime transport and living in Dublin Port has always been an interest to me. Just in relation to dirty fuels or bunker fuels, as it's sometimes called in the trade, that has been banned in certain ports. I'm just wondering, is there progress, or is there any discussions in relation to that? Can I just welcome your remarks in relation to the Climate Action and Low Carbon Bill? Just the expert advisory group, I think, is very important, and also the makeup of that to give confidence to the citizen that it's given the proper advice and its independence. That's not a question; it's just a comment. But the other thing and I think it really needs to move forward quickly and be very much of a focus. Maybe you might take this opportunity just to see where your next step, and you've only got the report recently, but I'd be just curious of what you're thinking about as your next step. On packaging waste, there's always been a very kind of concentration on plastic bags, the plastic bags here in Ireland, and we have been very successful, and the levy. But the one thing is that I've always been concerned about is over-packaging. We're talking about reduce, reuse and recycle. The element of reduce has never got the concentration I believe that it rightly needs. And if you go through any supermarket, the over-packaging element of packaging in the shops, I've always taken a note of. That kind of takes up resources, not only kind of paper, but fuel, etc. And it's more about advertising than it is about the packaging itself and how it looks on the shelf in the supermarket. And have you given any thought of that? In fairness, on air quality in Ireland has improved, especially in urban areas, and Mary Harney has done extremely well when she was a junior minister in the department in reducing smoke fuels that created a huge problem, certainly in the Dublin area. But there has been a recent report about air quality in small and medium towns and rural Ireland. Now, there is we've extended the ban on smokeless coal in areas, but there's always the problem, because it's so freely sold in Northern Ireland, about smuggling and transportation. Is there an element that we can look at this in the European viewpoint, and also with Westminster and the Northern Ireland Executive in trying to deal with that kind of smokeless coal on a 32 county basis, rather than just trying to keep it? Because if we continue out the roll of the ban, I think we will actually see greater involvement in smuggling, and I very much would encourage the rollout. And the other thing, which is air quality, especially in rural areas, which is illegal, is your bonfires of waste and things like that. And just have you had discussions with the local authorities in implementing the bylaws in relation to that? That more dioxins are actually created from a bonfire than from many other areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Just to say that, Chairman, 2.7 million is what we paid in fines to the European Union arising from our inactivity in relation to septic tanks and dealing with the registration. 2.7 million euro. That was totally unnecessary to be paid if the action had been taken earlier. And that was certainly a much less figure than what was being highlighted to us from the European Commission point of view earlier in the process. So, as you know, within weeks of becoming Minister, I dealt with that. But it was a little bit late in the day from the point of view of heading off some of these fines. And the nonsense that went on in relation to public meetings about groundwater quality associated with septic tanks is now seen for what it is: nonsense. People in rural Ireland know and understand the necessity of having good groundwater. It's in the interest of public health, and it's the interest of jobs, particularly in the food industry. So if people want to campaign against groundwater quality, well, then they're closing down rural Ireland effectively in the future in terms of economic activity. And it was a disgraceful campaign, and I'm delighted that we were able to get a decision made in Parliament here and a decision made in the European Commission that we were serious about groundwater quality, and that the modest proposals that we put through the Oireachtas on a risk-based approach was actually, quite, flattering to hear some people actually making representations to government deputies and opposition deputies, like looking for inspections now to be carried out by local authorities so that they can get access to some financial assistance that they announce. So, this is the sort of nonsense that gives it all a bad name. The ad hoc committee in relation to, or the expert committee in relation to climate change, I will be establishing that in the next few weeks. And I'm going to do that on an ad hoc basis pending the enactment of the legislation. I expect that the legislation now in a revised way, because of the recommendations of your committee, some of which I've indicated I'm taking on board, will be revised and brought hopefully to a publication stage at Easter time next year. So I'm moving on, and I hope to go to government between now and the end of this year on a new climate policy to reflect some of the issues that we discussed here in the sectoral maps. So there's quite a lot of political and activity likely to arise on the climate change agenda in 2014.
Can I just ask on that point, is it intended that that committee would be independent in the way that we... Yeah, right, okay.
No problem with that. I do take expert views from all sources, and it shows you how valuable this work that I asked you to do, that I was able to take on board some very reasonable suggestions. And I know that you have mentioned that you want in the same way as the Fiscal Advisory Council. I have no difficulty with that.
Thank you, Minister, for that, because I think that was the feeling from the whole committee that this is a vital measure within the proposals.
Find the Minister of the Environment wanting on that issue. The PRI reviews, we have a lot of PRI reviews, producer responsibility reviews going on across a lot of waste streams. One of them we did recently on packaging, so maybe I draw your attention to the one that's on the website. Have a look at it and see if there's any recommendations that you may want to come back to us on in relation to implementation. But I'm not going ahead with a packaging levy. That's one of the issues or not. I think that there's ways in which we can deal with this issue without imposing an additional cost on retailers or whatever. Air quality is a hugely important issue, and I prioritised this issue for the European presidency. We had, as part of our informal European presidency meeting in Dublin, we put on the first item on the agenda was how we can make progress on air quality. And the European Commission have brought out a paper, thematic paper on air quality, as I mentioned. But I also, side by side with that, I engaged with my Northern Ireland counterpart, and we have an all-island study being carried out at the moment. The consultants to carry out the work on behalf of both jurisdictions now has their work underway, and will report to us by the end of May next year. And their recommendations then will feed in to what further action we'll need to take in terms of air quality on an all-island basis. And it's very important it's done on an all-island basis for the reasons you've outlined in relation to smuggling and all of the difficulties that we have in relation to smuggling and other fuels. But smoky coal is the big one, and I have indicated that we're going to have a ban on smoky coal by 2016. So all of the distributors or manufacturers, they all know now at this stage that we're heading for a target date of 2016 to devise alternatives to smoky coal from the point of view of householders getting whatever fuel supplies they need to get. And I'd say we had a very positive announcement arising from that in Fynes, County Limerick, where 100 jobs was announced by a company, CPL, who are now manufacturing alternative fuel products to the ones that we have become used to, which are damaging to air quality. So there is a lot of activity happening between Northern Ireland and ourselves in relation to that. The bonfires, we have very good engagement with local authorities through waste enforcement network with the EPA, but we've continued to emphasise the importance of that for rural areas at our regular meetings.
Maritime fuels, dirty fuels.
I'll have to ask my colleague from Transport maybe to help us on that one.
Just to say, I suppose the main point is that we're fully up to date in relation to implementation under our pollution acts, in relation to everything that...
1 second. We have to go into private session, according to the clerk, for you to answer. So. Okay.